Okay, so I think we're live. So hi everybody, I'm Charlotte, I'm from Healthwatch Berry, and today we're meeting with the MS Society, the Multiple Sclerosis, I hope I said that right, apologies, Society, and that will be the topic of our Facebook Live today. So I just wanted to go through a few things. So the guidelines for our live stream is to be accepting. Everyone is welcome regardless of race, ethnicity, national origin, religious affiliation, sexual orientation, sex, gender identity, or ability. We want to respect each other's boundaries. We don't want to make advances or comments on appearance that might make someone feel uncomfortable. We don't want to be rude or intentionally provoke, threaten, or insult anybody. Obviously, opinions can run high, but we want to be nice to each other. We don't want to flood the chat. We want to keep the conversation going, but if we send the same comments over and over again, that can put a bit of a blockage in the way of that. We don't want to self-promote. We're not here for sales pitches, so we want to stay focused on the stream and the topic of the stream. And we want to keep it clean, so no shocking, obscene, vulgar, or inflammatory language. We want to just leave that out. So today we're doing our introduction now with me, and then Chris and Paul are going to take over from the MS Society, and Steph will be doing our nice Q&A afterwards. So who are Healthwatch? Healthwatch are your local health and social care champions. We make sure NHS leaders and other decision makers hear your voice and use your feedback to improve care. We listen to your experiences of using health and social care services and share them with those with the power to make change happen. And we can also provide you with information and advice. We can do this by supporting you by signposting to local or online support groups, giving you information and advice about you or your family members' healthcare, and listening to your experiences of using health and social care services in the Berry area. And there are our contact details that I'll just leave on for a second if you want to get in touch with us. Then without any further ado, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and pass over to our lovely guest today.
Good morning. My name is Paul Smithson and I work as Regional Development Officer for the MS Society. So my role is working with groups across the Northwest. There are 9 volunteer-led groups in the Manchester area to support them to extend their reach and also both promote and develop the services they offer to people affected by MS. I'm going to be interviewing Chris this morning. Chris, do you want to introduce yourself and we'll take it from there?
Yes, so hi, good morning everyone. My name's Chris and I am the group coordinator of the Berry and Northwest Manchester group. I've been working around the group now for around 5 years or so, but I've been the group coordinator now since February this year.
Thank you. And what we're going to do today is we're going to talk a little bit about MS, what it is, its impact, and then the sorts of services that are available locally and nationally. So, Chris, can I start by asking you, can you tell us what multiple sclerosis is?
So, multiple sclerosis, or MS, is an autoimmune disease where your immune system attacks the myelin coating that's around your nerves in your brain and in your spine. So your immune system attacks those nerves around your immune system attacks the coating around those nerves, which then means the nerves don't work properly. Okay, so a couple of different kinds of MS. You have relapsing remitting MS, and you also have primary progressive MS and secondary progressive MS. So a bit about relapsing remitting. So relapsing remitting MS is where you have a relapse of certain symptoms. So this is where your immune system has attacked the coating around the nerve and the nerve isn't working properly. And then you get remitting, or part of that is remitting, where that nerve damage stops and your brain reprograms itself to make the nerve work in a different way. And primary progressive and secondary progressive are where there is no remittance. So the damage just gets progressively worse, further and further and further on. So there's no set path for symptoms of MS or certain relapses. that show, so it's not like you're going to start off by getting vertigo and then have problems with mobility, then problems with your eyesight. Because your brain controls pretty much everything in your body, you can have a problem with anything that your brain and your spine control or look after for you. Okay.
Yep. So you talked a little bit there about sort of symptoms. So what sort of symptoms might somebody get? So
with MS, there are millions and millions and millions of different symptoms. Just to list a few of them are, you can have anxiety, depression, or other mental health issues. You can also have mobility problems. That's one that a lot of people generally see because it's visible. It's a visible symptom of it. You can have problems with dizziness. You can also have issues with spasticity and muscle spasms or tremors. But with MS, it can mirror any other neurological condition that you can get. So it can mirror the symptoms of Parkinson's with issues with tremors and things like that. It can also mirror issues like dementia, where you can have problems with cognitive function of your brain, how your brain works, issues controlling certain emotions, and basic control of your body sometimes can be affected by it as well.
Okay, you mentioned there things around sort of memory. Tell me a little bit about brain fog. So I understand that's a common symptom people often get that's not visible.
Yeah, so brain fog is quite a common situation for, it can be a situation that a lot of people find themselves in. So if you've heard someone say something along the lines of, I've lost my train of thought, things like that is a bit of a so-called symptom of brain fog. Brain fog is basically where it feels like your head is completely woolly and you can't focus and things don't work properly in your mind. So you can't follow simple instructions sometimes, or you just don't have any understanding of what's happening at that time. And you probably can tell that I have MS, and a lot of the time while I'm talking today, brain fog is there. It's why I keep getting lost at times as well.
Okay, thanks, Chris. So I understand there's been some development in the last 10 years or so around the treatment of relapsing remitting MS. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so there are various different treatments available, but the most recent ones are disease-modifying therapies. And these disease-modifying therapies are something that are intended to stop the spread or to stop any more damage in your brain or spine happening. Okay, so one of the disease-modifying therapies that I've been on is something called Lemtrada. And basically the Lemtrada drug itself is something that they used to use in chemotherapy for people with leukemia. And the idea behind it is that it kills off your immune system and your immune system resets and starts up again, but it forgets about what to do with regards to nerves. It forgets how to attack them and should, in theory, stop any further damage happening. Doesn't fix the damage that's been done, but it should stop any more damage happening.
Okay, thank you. So in terms of what sorts of services there are and what's available to people affected by MS within the Bury and North West Manchester areas, can you talk a little bit about what your group does?
Okay, so our group is basically there to support people that are affected by MS. So it's not just the people with MS, it's also their families, carers, loved ones, children, anyone that is attached to the person with MS that is affected by it. So we run numerous things. We have a dedicated support team within our volunteers that are there to offer a listening ear to help people and point them in the right direction for, or to get information about other products and services that are available, not just necessarily the things that are done within the group, but also things that are looked after by the NHS. So the support team are there to signpost people with MS to sort of go in certain directions for certain treatment or to access certain services. We offer, as a group, we offer grants. So there's two kinds of grants that we offer. There is a carers grant and there is a health and wellbeing grant. So the health and wellbeing grant is aimed more at getting things like equipment or certain things that can help the person with MS live their life. So for example, it could be to help someone get a new wheelchair or to get certain products that can help around the house. We also offer the carers grant, and that is, it's more of a development grant for people, for carers, so they can have time for themselves, where they can go and learn about they could go and do a course. So for example, if they wanted to do a course in massage, the carers grant would help put money towards that course. The other things that we offer as a group, we offer social activities. Unfortunately, one of our social activities has had to stop recently because of people not attending it. But we are looking at starting a new social activity of coffee mornings. We're in the process of looking for a venue, so if anyone does know anywhere, please let us know. So we're looking to set those mornings up, and at those sessions there will be people that are affected by MS. So there will be people there that are volunteers within the group, but there'll also be other people there that we class as service users who can use the service. They can use it as a social activity to get out and about and do something and meet new people, or even talk to some friends. So it's a bit of a peer support system where if you're new or only newly diagnosed with MS, you can come to those sessions and you can ask a question about, right, I'm having this problem with this symptom. And the people that are using that service or other people that are there can give advice and things that they have done to deal with that symptom. It could be something as stupid as the best place to go and get a wheelchair. Obviously, they're only people's personal opinions, but sometimes hearing personal opinions of people that are using certain products and services can be a great factor to making that decision. And one of the symptoms of MS can be making decisions. And personally, for me, I can be insanely indecisive. But the other things that we do within the group, we offer a physio service where the group will pay for sessions with a neurophysio, or a qualified neurophysio, should I say. And within those sessions, there is an hour-long assessment session where the person will talk to the neurophysio about whatever it is that they want to work on and assist during the sessions. And the physio will give some ideas of what they can do, how they can help, and how they can help the person. Within those sessions, so after the hour-long session, there are 45-minute sessions that, again, the group pay for, where the physio and the person using the service can work on whatever it is that's come out of the initial assessment session. We also have a service where we have someone that is a qualified massage therapist and qualified reflexology practitioner and Reiki practitioner. So within those sessions, the group will pay for a couple of sessions where you can have a reflexology session, or you can have a Reiki session, or they also offer, or as that service also offers, facials as well. So if you're feeling a little bit low and you feel like you need a facial to help you feel better, the group will help and pay for those sessions for you. The other things that we do, talked about the physio. Sorry, my mind's just gone completely blank. So, but yeah, we've offered those physios and we offer those grants. We're looking at starting that new session of the coffee mornings. And we're also looking at offering other sessions of something like chiropody or podiatry, I think that's the other name for it, where we can signpost people to a direction of where they can go to get certain services like chiropody. But other than that, I think that's about everything that we offer as a group. I could have missed something, but my mind's gone blank.
No, I think you've done a good job there, Chris, covering everything that the group does. And I think I'm going to talk a little bit in a minute about the national services, but it's also worth pointing out, as I said, that there are a number of groups covering the Greater Manchester boroughs that do different things. And you can look and sort of search for those through the MS website, do a number of different things. The details and the contact details, I believe, will be shared with this video at the end, so you'll be able to contact Chris and the team. I'm going to talk a little bit about the wider MS Society, so I'm going to share my screen, and this is the point of when I do this that I always bring up something I shouldn't, so fingers crossed. So let's have a look. There we go. Perfect. So just to talk very briefly about the wider MS Society, I'm not going to talk about MS as Chris has already covered that quite comprehensively, but it's just worth pointing out that there's around 130,000 people with MS in the UK. And in sort of Bury, not Northwest Manchester, not including Northwest Manchester, where the group also covers, there's estimated to be 365 people living with MS. And that works out at around 99 men and 266 female, because ladies, because it works out roughly that a third of people with MS are male and 2/3 are female. So the MS Society, we've got 230 local volunteer-led groups providing local services and support. And it's worth pointing that out, I think, because all the work that Chris and his group do, they fundraise for. So the money's raised locally and spent locally. So if you do see the MS Society collecting somewhere in your area, the money will go to your local service if the local group is collecting that. So as an organisation, we have a helpline, we work on research, and we campaign for treatment and change. But I want to talk particularly about the helpline. The helpline, the name the helpline is a bit of a misnomer. The helpline is actually a gateway to support. So you don't need to ring the helpline if you're in crisis. You can ring the helpline if you want sort of general information on MS and signposting. It's open from 9 till 7, and you can contact a number of different ways, including Facebook Messenger and through, we have a language line translation. Available via the helpline is we have access to MS nurses, we have a helpline benefits advisor, and we have a disability law service. So you can speak to MS nurses about medication, about treatment. Benefits advisor will talk about those things, and the disability law service will advise on things like employment law, housing law, etc. And they will also post and link into local services. So they would signpost you to Chris and his team where needed, in the same way that Chris would signpost to the helpline, you know, if he feels that there's need to speak to the people on the helpline. We also have a specialist advisor around exercise, and they will work with people one-to-one to look at lifestyle changes. MS can be adversely impacted by lifestyles such as smoking, poor diet, etc. So they can advise on that. And we also have a short break service. So if somebody's looking about going on holiday and they want to know the best place to go to, they want some support arranging it, or they want some guidance on where they might get funding, we can advise on that too. And then finally, we have a number of other things that you can find out about on our website, and there'll be a link to that sent out with this, or the helpline can advise you. We have a national community forum, and we have a number of online get-togethers, well-being sessions, and we have online awareness sessions covering all sorts of things, from anything covering maternity issues to menopause, to eating well, to living well, to carer support. So let's just see what my last slide says, because I've missed anything. Yeah, so the only other thing to mention is if you go on our website and you type in "for you," it will bring you to a page where you can sign up to the website. You can also find a local activity finder. You are able to access activities that other groups are doing if they have capacity, and also there are a number of online activities. So if you want to do an exercise class, for example, and your local group isn't doing one, but you can find one elsewhere, you'd be welcome to join that online. We also have a number of online publications as well that you might want to access, covering all aspects of MS. So I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to ask if anybody has any questions or would like to follow up on anything that Chris or I have said so far.
Oh, well, thank you very much for that. That was actually amazing and really informative. Thanks to both of you. I'm going to pass over to Steph because she's got all the questions for you. And yeah, thank you very much.
Hi, both. Yeah, I'd just like to echo what Charlotte said. Obviously, that was very informative. So I've got a few questions, if you don't mind. But the ones that you've already seen, and then obviously I've just thought of a few questions myself. So obviously, well, Chris answered the first sort of question, which was the symptoms to look out for when to see your GP. But going on from that, with Chris saying that, you know, a lot of MS symptoms are similar to other conditions, how easy is it to get a diagnosis of MS?
So when it comes to being diagnosed with MS, it's something that can only be done by a neurologist. Personally, the situation that I went through is while I was in the diagnosis appointment, or while I was in the appointment with a neurologist, we managed to track down that I'd actually been having symptoms for 10 years before I was diagnosed, mainly because with MS, it can be anything and everything that's affected. So for me personally, they were all treated as issues, as separate problems, if that makes sense, rather than MS and lumped all together as MS. But symptoms wise, it can be anything and everything. So personally, for the diagnosis route that sent me down that route was I had vertigo. I had issues with my vision. I'd gone blind in one eye, and then my vision came back, but my eyes had turned out. So I was getting double vision. Then from that, because of the vertigo and the dizziness, I had issues, or that then gave me issues with my mobility. So I couldn't get around as well, because effectively I was walking around like I'd had far too much to drink when I hadn't been drinking at all. And that's something that can be a bit of an issue for people with MS. It can make you very self-conscious about the situation, because you're walking around as normally as you can do, or you're just walking around, and people are looking at you with the impression of you've been drinking, or that you've got this problem or that problem, when you haven't actually been drinking. It's just a symptom of your MS, or a symptom that you're dealing with at the moment that has caused those mobility issues and that wobbliness and walking. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you for that. And the other one is going back to, like, you know, going back to the whole diagnosis process. Obviously, you've got a lot of questions you want to ask. So what sort of information is sort of out there in order to help people understand, you know, MS? Because I suppose if you've been told you might have it by a neurologist or a GP, it can be quite scary. You have many questions. So what advice and information is out there, really?
So like Paul was saying earlier, there is a whole library of different leaflets that can talk about nearly every symptom you can get. And they're available online, and the support team that I mentioned earlier can also help you with that information. But normally, as part of the diagnosis process, you are talked to by a neurologist who can go into a bit of information about what it is and what's happening. They won't say you will have this symptom next, because there's no set path for MS to take. But as part of that neurology appointment, they will probably put you in contact with the MS nurses, and they are specialist nurses that look after people with MS. So they know where to. So for me, they referred me to physio to help me with the mobility issues and wobbliness and dizziness. But they're also there to talk to you about treatment options and give you ideas about what will happen with certain treatments. And again, they have a whole wealth of information about the different aspects of it and the different treatment options available.
If I could just add to that, Steph, if that's okay, what Chris has said it is correct. Also, the MS nurses, which are based in Salford, they have the contacts for the MS Society. They have the contacts of all the local groups, and they have a leaflet to give out on the local groups. There are a number of ways to get information, and as well as the MS Society, I've mentioned their helpline, accessing the local group. And as I said, you should get that information from your MS nurses. Also, Google will bring you to that information. There are also other organisations, such as the MS Trust, who also have helplines, and will be able to give, information and support and signposting as well. It's also worth pointing out that Chris mentioned about disease-modifying treatments, and that means there's like a potential split in the MS community. You've got people who are having disease-modifying treatments and might not necessarily develop as many symptoms, or their condition may not become progressive or take a longer time to become progressive, and therefore are living active lives but still having to cope and manage with symptoms. And then you've got a group of people who are older who may have gone to a more progressive stage and are having symptoms that are causing a sort of greater degree of disability. People aren't able to work, etc. So there are different support groups out there as well to support people. So there is MS Together, which is a Northwest-based group that covers the UK for younger people between 18 and 34. There's Shift MS, which are peer support-led groups. So which is a peer support-led organisation which makes a number of informative videos and things in the way we're doing this by people with MS, for people with MS. So there's a number of different ways to get the information, and you know, there are a number of specialist groups that can support certain cohorts of the MS community.
Thank you, Paul. And there's just 2 more quick questions, if I can ask, if I may. I'll be really quick. Well, first one is 2 in 1. So basically, how does having MS affect your fertility? Like, if you want to have a child in life with a partner or whatever, or on your own, does it affect your chances of becoming pregnant and starting a family? And also found that that statistic of the one that you shared with us, Paul, in your presentation about MS seems to affect more women than men. Do we know the reason why that is? Is that linked with fertility in any way?
Chris, do you want to take that, or do you want me to take it?
So when it comes to fertility and having children or having kids, there is it shouldn't cause any problem. Only thing it could cause is if there is a symptom that is affecting that part of your life, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But there are, with the disease modifying therapies, the neurologist and MS nurses will sort of talk to you about how it could possibly affect fertility and having children. But from what I remember, I'm sure I read something or saw something once where women with MS that get pregnant can sometimes have a bit of a free period while they're pregnant, if that makes sense. Yeah. Where it can actually help them deal with the symptoms, it can lessen some symptoms and sort of cure it. It's not an official cure, but I believe that becoming pregnant can actually help, has helped some women.
I think it's different things for different people. I think, you know, Chris is right. It can reduce the symptoms, and that it's, you know, that it doesn't appear, having MS doesn't appear to affect somebody's ability to have children. In terms of the question Steph asked about why more women than men, I think there isn't a clear-cut answer. There's some thoughts around vitamin D deficiency. There's various sort of things, so there doesn't seem to be a specific answer overall to that. There's just sort of different theories as to why it may not be, but there's no definitive answer at this stage.
Thank you. And just one more question. Chris, you mentioned within your groups you offer like a carers, well, not carers allowance, but carers grants, different grants. We know that some grants are means tested with regards to like finances and depending on what benefits individual people are on. So how do people get access to like the carers grants, and are they means tested, or is it just there for everyone who inquires about it?
So they are available, they're not means tested. The only time they could possibly be means tested to a certain degree is if you're a millionaire and you come asking us to pay for a wheelchair or something, then we'll sort of look at the situation and maybe go, right, no, you could get this yourself. But with the grants process, there is an application process, but if you want to go down that route, it would be contact the group and then we'll take it from there.
Thank you.
I think just to add to what Chris was saying, I think, you know, the MS Society sort of grants process, there is guidance to that, but it is a lot broader than the statutory guidance will be if you're applying for a, you know, a government grant or whatever, you know, but each individual's situation is taken into account during the process.
Thank you. And obviously you mentioned it's great, but you have so many great things going on, like the physiotherapist. So like you mentioned fundraising. So is that how you mainly get funding for, you know, the activities and the sessions?
Yeah, so the group's funded by the group gets the money from fundraising. Sometimes the group will apply for grants from maybe the lottery or things like that. But with our group in particular, at the moment, a lot of the money that we have is from where people have left it to the group when they've passed away.
So it's in wills then, because a lot of charities seem to do that with the Macmillan nurses in particular. They say, can you leave us a gift in your will? So is that an option that obviously you're doing as well? Yeah,
so you can do it. As for the process of doing it, I've no idea. But you can leave money to the group in a will, or sometimes we get where, you know how funeral directors make a collection at the funeral for a certain charity, we can get money through that as well. But a lot of it depends on the person that's passed away and what they either want to do with their property, their money, or whatever it is their choice.
Yeah.
And just one more question. I'm sorry, but the more you're talking, the more questions. So, with MS, does it affect life expectancy, or, you know, do you die, you know, younger with MS, or can you live like, you know, to a ripe old age and just die of natural causes, really?
It's one of them where, as far as I know, it doesn't affect life expectancy. It's the same sort of thing where you could just walk out into the road and get hit by a bus. That doesn't mean you've got MS. Do you know what I mean? It's not a time thing. It doesn't affect necessarily certain people with MS. Symptoms could impact it, and maybe it's slightly a lower life expectancy for the people with the progressive ones. But again, it's going to depend on what their symptoms are and what's affected by MS.
I mean, just to add to what Chris was saying, yes, you know, MS itself isn't often fatal, but the symptoms it causes might be. So if it causes issues with your bladder, or, you know, issues with mobility or whatever, the degree of those symptoms could be what impact on life expectancy. And there was at one point, or just to rephrase that particularly with the introduction of disease modifying drugs, that's getting smaller. So, you know, the impact of symptoms on life expectancy is getting smaller with the amount of treatments that are coming out. And that's a lot of the work that local groups do with their fundraising, also goes into research and gets given to research, as well as providing local activities, which again creates more information on disease modifying drugs and, hopefully will to coin one of our slogans for the society, will stop MS sooner rather than later.
Thank you, that's really interesting. And you'll be pleased to know that's the end of my questions. But thank you for your time and answering them. Really appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for inviting us.
That was really interesting. Honestly, thank you so much. And it's nice to know there's so many developments going on to actually take away the worst case scenario, so to speak, shall we say. I think that's really reassuring for people to hear, if anything. So that's good. Thank you so much for your time today, guys. Thank you. And I will let you be free for your day. Thanks very much. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.